There's a place on Earth where the rules change, where pressure becomes a weapon, where sunlight has never touched the ground, where the map ends. Tonight, we're going deeper than any human civilization has ever lived, deeper than Mount Everest is tall, deeper than most of the ocean itself. This is the Mariana Trench, the deepest place on Earth, and possibly the most alien. Welcome in to the ominous archives. What's up, everyone? I am Nick.
And I'm Em.
I was kind of confused about that for a minute, but...
I mean, he said it like a question. What's up, everyone?
I forgot who I was for a second. So, apologize because last week's episode, I believe... Yeah, it was last week's episode. Came out late because I decided to get a case of like that 24-hour flu that was going around.
How dare he?
Yep. So, I was not able to get it up in time. I did get it out on Friday. It was just not at our normal time.
It's a little late. Better late than never.
Yeah, you know. But we are doing better this week, sort of.
We're rolling with the punches, okay?
Yeah, we're, 4 days behind recording, so it's going to be a very crammed week as far as recording, getting it all done, and back out to you guys on time. But that's where, thank God we have Sam, because she's honestly keeping us afloat at the moment. But let's just dive into it. I don't think I have anything else. Do you have anything you would like to add?
I've got nothing to add here.
Pretty boring over there.
Yeah, as per usual, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're not very interesting people. We can't drink Dos Equis. Anyway, so let's start with where this thing actually is. Because on the map, it doesn't look dramatic at all. The Mariana Trench sits in the western Pacific Ocean, east of the Philippines, about 200 kilometers from the Mariana Islands. On a flat map, it's just a long, shallow curve. It's easy to miss, but that curve marks the deepest known feature on the surface of our planet. And the reason it exists is geological, not accidental. The Pacific Plate, one of the largest and oldest tectonic plates on Earth, is slowly being forced beneath the Philippine Sea Plate. This process is called subduction. It isn't explosive. It isn't cinematic. It happens millimeter by millimeter over millions of years. One part of the planet is gradually pushed downward and recycled into the mantle. The result? A crescent-shaped depression in the sea floor more than 1,500 miles long and about 43 miles wide on average. It's a part of the global network of deep ocean trenches formed wherever tectonic plates collide. But among all of them, the Mariana Trench stands apart. It contains the deepest known points in the global ocean, and geologists consider it the oldest region of the oceanic crust still exposed on Earth. At its lowest point lies Challenger Deep, roughly 322 kilometers southwest of Guam. From the ocean surface to the bottom is nearly 11 kilometers, about 7 miles. If you drop Mount Everest into the trench, its summit would still be more than a mile underwater. So we're talking deep.
Putting that into perspective.
Right? And at depth, it's not just impressive, it has its consequences. The pressure increases about 1 atmosphere every 10 meters. By the time you reach the bottom, the water is pressing down with roughly 8 tons per square inch of pressure. That's more than 1,000 times the pressure at sea level. The temperature hovers just above freezing, and sunlight never reaches it. It's permanently dark, permanently cold, and permanently crushing. And that's why thousands of people have climbed Everest, and only a handful have ever reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench. The first measure happened in 1875 during the British research vessel HMS Challenger's global oceanic expedition. Using a weighted rope, they recorded a depth of about 5 miles, an early sign that the ocean floor dropped much further than anyone had imagined. Then, in 1951, the HMS Challenger 2 returned with echo-sounding equipment and confirmed that the trench extended nearly 7 miles below the surface. But what actually is going down there, that didn't come until about 1960, when Jacques Piccard and the U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh descended in the Bathyscaphe Trieste. I butchered that, but anyway, it took 5 hours to reach the bottom, and they only stayed for 20 minutes. Silt stirred up by the submersive clouded everything, and no photographs were taken. But their presence answered a question that had lingered for decades. Could life exist under this kind of pressure? And the answer was yes. Since then, unmanned submersives and deep-sea dredgers have revealed amphibioids, translucent holothurans, and other organisms adapted to conditions that, by normal reasoning, should be fatal. Scientists suspect many more species remain undiscovered, especially among microorganisms that may offer insights into biomedicine, biotechnology, and even the origins of life on Earth. And still, most of the trench remains unseen. Even now, every descent carries enormous technical risk. The trench resists sustained human presence. It isn't just deep, it's old, unyielding, and largely unknown.
Now, imagine descending straight down. At first, there's still light. Faint sunlight filters through the water, scattering into pale blues as you sink. Those colors begin to thin out. Blues darken, and greens disappear. Eventually, color itself stops making sense. At about 1,000 meters, you enter what scientists call the midnight zone. No sunlight reaches this depth. None. Photosynthesis stops completely. Everything below exists without direct connection to the sun. There's no horizon, no surface glow, no shadows, which is just so crazy. I can't even, begin to think of what that's like.
Just black?
Just so scary.
Yeah.
The idea of color stops making sense. Even up and down start to lose meaning. This region stretches down to roughly 4,000 meters. The temperature stays near 39 degrees Fahrenheit, just above freezing. It doesn't change with seasons. It doesn't warm during the day. It has been cold like this for millions of years. And yet, life still exists here. Sperm whales, among the deepest living mammals, descended into this darkness to hunt, holding their breath as they navigate a space completely foreign to human senses. Below that lies the abyssal zone, from about 4,000 to 6,000 meters. The word abyss comes from an ancient belief that the ocean had no bottom. For a long time, people assumed this region was empty, too deep, too dark, too hostile. Even today, it's one of the least explored environments on Earth, covering roughly 3/4 of the deep ocean floor. The water remains near freezing. The pressure is crushing. The few organisms that survive move slowly, conserving energy. Food is scarce. Every movement has a cost. And below that, below 6,000 meters, you enter the hadal zone. Named after the Greek underworld, this is where the Mariana Trench begins. From 6,000 meters down to nearly 11,000 meters, the seafloor drops into narrow, steep-sided trenches carved by tectonic forces. The temperature barely changes. The darkness is absolute. The pressure exceeds 8 tons per square inch. That's the combined weight of all the water above you. It's like having 50 jumbo jets stacked on every square inch of your body. Unprotected humans wouldn't feel pain. They wouldn't have time. Air-filled spaces, lungs, sinuses would collapse instantly. Cells would rupture, bones would shatter. And yet, even here, the ocean is not empty.
For most of history, reaching the bottom wasn't about bravery, it was about feasibility. The pressure was so extreme that scientists weren't sure any structure could survive long enough to prove it. That's why the first crewed descent didn't happen until 1960. The vehicle was the U.S. Navy bathyscaphe Trieste. It wasn't built for extended research. It was built to answer a single question. Could a human survive, even briefly, at the bottom of the ocean? And yes, we did look up how to say that. Earlier I butchered that. Earlier I butchered it. We had to make up for that. Yeah. At its core was a solid steel sphere, more than 5 inches thick. Inside, barely enough room for 2 people. So now you're claustrophobic too.
Yeah.
No real maneuverability. No quick ascent. Once you began descending, you committed. Ascend depended on releasing ballasts and rising slowly over hours. Inside were Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh. The descent took nearly 5 hours. As they sank, the pressure climbed to levels never tested in the real-world conditions. Communications became spotty. Navigation was limited to the depth readings and time. Outside, the viewing ports, nothing. Then at roughly 30,000 feet, a sharp cracking sound echoed through the sphere. That's gotta be...
That's not great.
I'd probably be like, that's it, we're done.
I'm like, all right.
It's over.
Had a nice time, had a nice life.
An outer acrylic viewing window had fractured.
Oh, perfect. Right?
The inner structure held, but something had failed. And at that depth, there was no emergency escape. Even if they began ascending immediately, it would take hours. If the structure failed, there would be no warning. They continued. When Trieste reached Challenger Deep, it settled into fine sediment that billowed upward, clouding everything. Visibility dropped to just a few feet. Floodlights illuminated particles drifting in darkness. They stayed for about 20 minutes. No photographs, no samples. The most famous moment, a flat fish Piccard believed he saw, remains debated. Some scientists argue vertebrate fish cannot survive such pressure. What the dive proved wasn't what lived there. It proved humans could reach it and could come back. Then, no one returned for more than 50 years. The trench tolerated a visit, then closed again.
For over 5 decades, no human went back. Not because we couldn't build better technology, but because the trench offers very little in return for such an enormous risk. That, however, changed in 2012. Filmmaker and explorer James Cameron made the first solo descent to Challenger Deep in the Deep Sea Challenger, a submersible engineered over 7 years specifically for this purpose. Unlike Trieste, it carried cameras, robotic arms, and powerful lighting. The descent took just over 2.5 hours. Cameron passed the depth of the Titanic, once considered unimaginable, while still less than a third of the way down, which is insane.
Mm-hmm.
That, the perspective of all of these is just so crazy.
Mm-hmm. The thought and the engineering and stuff that goes into it, because they still have trouble getting down the Titanic now.
Yeah,
I mean, now
right.
you can pay big bucks to do it,
Yeah.
but
That's
it's
crazy.
still a lot.
So when he reached the bottom, the landscape was subdued, fine sediment, soft terrain, essentially flat, visibly limited, darkness beyond the lights. He saw nothing larger than about an inch. But he stayed for hours, far longer than the 1960 crew, collecting samples in marine biology, microbiology, geology, and geophysics. He captured the first detailed visual record of Challenger Deep. And yet, what he described most strongly was isolation, like visiting another planet and returning in a day. Technologically, it was a success. Scientifically, valuable. But it reinforced something. The trench does not reveal itself easily. It feels visited, not conquered. After Cameron, it didn't go silent. Beginning in 2019, the privately built submersible limiting factor began making repeated descents, more than 20 successful dives. Explorer Victor Vescovo reached the bottom 15 times by August of 2022, more than all previous crewed missions combined. In 2020, astronaut Catherine D. Sullivan and mountaineer Vanessa O'Brien became the first women to reach the bottom. Go women. That same year, China's crewed submersible Fendusha descended to Challenger Deep. The trench became more accessible, but not more familiar. Each visitor reports the same thing: isolation, silence, and indifference.
No, the animals down here aren't dramatic in the way we would expect. They're soft-bodied, slow, energy efficient. Snailfish have been observed deeper than any other fish beyond 8,000 meters. They are largely translucent and cartilaginous. Cusk eels, eel-shaped fish, are found across an unusually wide depth range, from shallow water to extreme depths. Not true eels, but bonny fish, related to seahorses and tuna, known for tolerating large pressure differences that most fish cannot survive. We've the goblin shark, a deepwater shark lineage with a fossil record extending back more than 100 million years. Uses electroreception to locate prey rather than relying on vision. It's capable of extending its jaw forward rapidly to capture prey. So I think most people have seen a video of them. Everybody, I feel like, has seen the video of the goblin shark doing its thing.
Well, because I feel like if you ever get to like that one part of TikTok when you're just scrolling for too long, you get to those deep sea videos,
Yeah.
and there's just like the random sea animals. Yeah. These are the ones that I be seeing.
You're like, yeah.
I'm familiar with these guys.
A frilled shark. Eel-like shark with 6 frilled gill slits and hundreds of needle-shaped teeth. The body plan has remained largely unchanged for millions of years, and it typically inhabits deep continental slopes rather than shallow waters. There's the black sea devil, a type of deep-sea anglerfish that uses a bioluminescent lure to attract prey. Females are much larger than males, and males are rarely seen and live parasitically in some species. Despite their appearance, most are relatively small. That's the one I'm pretty sure that in Finding Nemo, where he sees the light, and then they trap him with the goggles.
That's that guy.
That one, yeah. A deep-sea dragonfish. Small, slender predators with disproportionately large jaws and long, fang-like teeth. Possesses light-producing organs used for communicating and hunting. Some species have transparent teeth that reduce light reflection. The barrel eye, identified by a transparent head and upward-facing tubular eyes. Eyes are adapted to detect silhouettes of prey against faint overhead light. Olfactory organs sit where their eyes would usually be positioned. So its eyes are in its head looking up.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Half-naked hatchetfish. It's a small, laterally compressed fish with large upward-facing eyes. It uses light-producing organs on its underside to match the brightness of the water above, reducing its silhouette, and it's commonly found in the low-light midwater zone. This is fun. The dumbbell octopus. It's named for its ear-like fins used for slow, energy-efficient movement. Females carry eggs at multiple development stages, allowing reproduction when conditions permit. It lives at depths where encounters with mates are often rare. We have the vampire squid, a deep ocean cephalopod adapted to low oxygen environments. feeds primarily on drifting organic material rather than actively hunting. It has a longer lifespan than most squid due to its slow metabolism.
Kind of looks like a Demogorgon. Not the Demogorgon, the
Demodog?
What's the one with the flower head? One that looks like a flower.
It's the Demogorgon.
Yeah, the Demogorgon. That's what he looks like.
And last but not least, zombie worms. Why not?
Why not?
These are bone-eating worms that consume the remains of dead whales on the sea floor. They use acid to dissolve the bone and rely on symbiotic bacteria to extract nutrients. The males are microscopic and live inside the female's body. These animals that thrive in the Mariana Trench are unusual but perfectly suited to live in such a hostile environment. Their anatomy reflects a world where pressure is constant, energy is limited, and survival depends on efficiency rather than force.
In 2014, researchers recording sounds above the trench captured something strange. A low rumbling tone followed by a sharp metallic ring. It sounded mechanical, like science fiction. Someone said it resembled something from Star Wars or Star Trek. They called it biotwang, and it repeated again and again. As NOAA oceanographer Ann Allen later put it, once is coincidence, twice is happenstance. 9 times, it's definitely a bride's whale. After analyzing over 200,000 hours of recordings with artificial intelligence, scientists matched the sound to a population of bride's whales in Northwest Pacific. It appears to function as a long-distance contact call, possibly a massive game of Marco Polo played across hundreds of miles, which is a funny analogy.
Funny and wild.
The sound wasn't coming from the trench, it was simply just passing through it.
So less than 5% of the global ocean has been directly explored. Some estimates say less than 0.001% of the depth of the deep sea floor has been seen with the human eyes or cameras. We've mapped 100% of the moon, much of Mars, but the deep ocean represents more than 99% of the Earth's livable volume, and most of it remains unseen. So speculation fills the gaps. Undiscovered large animals? Possible. Prehistoric survivors like Megalodon? Scientists reject it. Too little food, too much pressure, no evidence, but the idea persists. Unidentified submersible objects? Reported, never verified. Phantom bases? No geological or engineering support. Unusual deep-sea sounds, often traced to whales or geology, but some remain unclear. Hollow Earth theories, which is something we're going to dive into, in conflict with established geology, but culturally persistent. None of these ideas require the trench to be extraordinary. They only require it to remain unseen. But the Mariana Trench doesn't need myths to be unsettling. It doesn't need monsters, hidden worlds, or secret bases. What makes it disturbing is simpler than that. It is vast, mostly unseen, and indifferent to our presence. We can reach it briefly. We can measure it imperfectly. We can leave things behind, sometimes without meaning to. But the trench does not respond. It waits, it absorbs, it endures. And for a human that depends on light, orientation, and certainty, that kind of place will always feel wrong. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the Ominous Archives on social media for any updates and upcoming episodes. Sam wrote this episode for us from Scare Me Sam. It is a podcast dedicated to horror, thriller, and dark fantasy books if you are interested. So thanks for listening, and remember, some depths don't need to hide anything to be terrifying. Stay haunted and stay weird. See ya.
See ya.